My name is Brian Johnson. I work at Pinterest. I manage our CPG, beauty, and health businesses at the company. And excited to be here today to talk a little bit about what we're doing and some exciting innovation that's going on in the space. So I'll talk very briefly about what Pinterest is and how we think about the product and the service we provide to users. I will then talk a little bit about how that product and service translates to shopping and the things that people decide to do and the things they decide to buy. And then we'll go into some innovation. And I've got a bunch of videos that I spent a couple of days pulling together. They're a little rough. Production quality isn't really high, but that's because it's stuff that's happening right now. And so hopefully you'll enjoy that. I can answer some questions, and then you guys can get off to lunch. So there we go. So how many of you guys use Pinterest? All right, pretty good. So we think about Pinterest as a visual discovery engine, right? A place where you can go and be inspired and find new ideas, both around passions you have today and maybe discover new passions that you never knew you had before. A lot of our users come and they start with planning for a wedding or buying a new house or redesigning their kitchen, and then they discover all of the other content on there, and the next thing they know, they're buying shoes for a marathon, planning dinner recipes or parties with their friends. And so really our goal is that as people come onto the platform and start to discover the utility is that they see the breadth of it and discover it for new things and use it daily and really help them discover the things they love, right? And if you think about how Pinterest is different than other platforms, success in our world is you see something on the platform and then you go and you do it in real life. So that's a lot of the other platforms are about how do we just keep you on here for endless amounts of time? And there's nothing that would make our CEO happier than to hear stories from each of you about finding something new and then you actually going and doing it. And you can see this slide here, 98% of Pinners report trying new things they find on the platform. Again, not surprising based on what the platform is. And we've coined this term called active consideration or actively considering what they're going to do or buy next. And we think that is the space that we uniquely own. When you go to Google, you oftentimes know exactly what you want, and they're just directing you to the place to make it easy to go find it. And so there's this idea of people come and they know they want to do something, but they don't know exactly what they want to get. And so we offer them perspective and ideas for what they could do in their lives. And you can see some of the different inspiration here that this user is doing. So actively considering, another way to say that would be they come with a certain amount of intent. And this intent is what we're going to talk about here in a few minutes when I show you some of the innovative work that some of our CPG partners are doing. And a big part of that intent or the active consideration is they haven't decided what to do, and we see that in terms of what people do on the platform. So we're starting to build a search business. It's still really early, but 97% of the searches that take place on Pinterest are non-branded. And so if you think about what this means then, people could come and they could search the term breakfast. And just think about all of the ways companies like General Mills and Kellogg's could satisfy that demand or that intent with different ideas that involve their products. It's very open-ended, and we think that's if you're a marketer or you're running a business, when do you want to talk to people? You want to talk to them when they're in the planning process deciding what to do. And this is just an example of some of the decisions they make. And just for perspective, oftentimes we'll be in conversations and people won't understand truly how big Pinterest is. There's over 200 million people in the world that use it every month. Here in the US, the number is getting pretty close to 100 million. And so when you start breaking that down across all the activities and interests people have, in cases like this, the numbers are really huge. And so that is another distinction of the platform that makes us unique. And when people come to Pinterest, when they see this inspiration and they discover these new ideas, they typically buy more, and they buy more quickly. This stat around the 40% bigger basket is through research we did with a company called Newstar. And we're still building on this and uncovering more about what this truly means. But anytime you're in a world where you're buying advertising and people buy more and they do it more quickly, that's great for everyone involved. So that's just the quick general scoop on what Pinterest is. We'll talk a little bit about shopping and how people shop, and then we'll get into the examples. So if you think about how people shop, yes, there are some occasions when you might make an impulse purchase decision, but most oftentimes it is something that you think about for at least a moderate amount of time, right? And you might be inspired, you might come and look for discovery, you might think about finding new things that you didn't even know you wanted. you decide, and then you ultimately do. If I think about what Pinterest does a really good job of today, we do a really good job with discovery and inspiration. And the do part is where we're working, and that's what we're going to get to here in just a second. And if you think about this is how Pinterest guides people through that experience. And so again, a lot of the work we're doing on the product side right now is around helping people do. And if you translate that, like, so you could be like, Brian, what does that mean? We're working really closely with retailers to incorporate their shopping feeds into Pinterest so that when they do come and search for very specific things, we can offer them that. Or when they search for broader things, we give them content that's appropriate for those as well. And last but not least, and this is the perfect lead into what I'm about to show you, is how people use Pinterest in the store. So you can see the example on the right, shopping lists. Oftentimes people will come and they'll save a recipe to their dessert board or their snack board, dinner, parties, what have you. And they literally pull that up when they're in the retailer store as a shopping guide for what they're going to buy. It's a pretty powerful tool. They also look at Pinterest for putting items into context or how they could be used. So you could be in a store and looking at sweaters. And let's just say like it's a white cardigan sweater. You could come to Pinterest to then discover, how am I going to wear that white cardigan sweater if I'm going to work or going out with my friends or what have you? All things that I'm not adequately prepared to do myself, but you could see how Pinterest could help get you there. So it's really just about like adding additional color and context to what those items might mean to you in your life if you were to buy it. All right, so now we're going to get into some of these innovative ideas. Like I said, they're quick and simple, and hopefully the videos will play on demand. So this first, there we go. All right, perfect. So it's actually the top pin that we'll come back to in a second, but it's the Walmart pin with this Artisan Cafe coffee mix. And what you'll see is, somebody will click on it. It's a little slow. But when you click on it, it will take you to walmart.com, and those items will be automatically put into the cart that you could then buy, or you could potentially pick up in a click or collect model. Now you might say like, all right, Brian, this isn't all that interesting, like you're just driving traffic to a retailer store. But if you think about why people come to Pinterest, right, in a world where they're coming and looking for ideas or things to do or things to make, this idea of taking what is normally just like a branded piece of content and creating shoppability within it is a pretty big deal. Or at least I think it's a pretty big deal. And so hence we're thinking through like, how do we do this? Like with scale, with consistency, what does this mean to our retail partners and what does this mean to our manufacturer partners? So what I'm gonna walk you through are just a few of these different examples of different situations that we found ourselves in thus far. Next example from our friends at Kellogg's, Pringles. So Pringles ran a Super Bowl ad this year, and it was all about flavor stacking, buying a variety of bags of tubes of Pringles, stacking them together into different flavor combinations. And in this case, we were running creative on Pinterest that would drive people to Amazon, where you could buy the various flavors and come up with various stackings, or you could subscribe and do what have you. So again, taking a piece of creative that in the old days, right, would have just been like, stack your Pringles here, come up with different flavors, right? And they came up with very cute, interesting flavor stacks. But this adds actionability to it that I think gets people pretty excited. And if you think about, just for those of you who aren't super familiar with like e-commerce for food companies these days, it's a very, very small percentage of their business here in the United States today. But in other markets in Asia, the percentage of the business is quite immense. And so this is all about like testing and learning and figuring out what consumers will and want to do in the early days before it gets bigger here. One more example. Here's a recipe. And in this example, you're going to click from the recipe, actually go to the website, where you then choose the retailer of your choice, right? And so often cases when we're serving content to people on Pinterest, we're working on this so that we target the ads and content appropriately based on retailers that certain people might prefer. But oftentimes we don't know who their preferred partner is. And so in this case, you're going to the brand website, clicking on the partner that you prefer, and then adding the items to the basket. What is going to be the best way for all this to work in the future? I don't know, but we're trying to come up with a way to make it as simplistic as possible, because obviously, as you all know, the more steps you have in the process, people are going to drop off and not complete. And as you can see, this process took a pretty good length of time. And then promotions. So for those of you in the promotion space, if you think about Pinterest, this has been an area where we've intentionally gone pretty slow, because we didn't want Pinterest to turn into just a coupon website where people go and paste up limited time offers and just wouldn't be a high quality experience. But we are starting to do some things now. And in this example, this is a craft example, partnering with Ibotta, to where somebody can go and they can download this rebate, go buy the products, and get $1 added to their Ibotta card. And so this literally, I think, is running right now. It's the first time we've done it, and appears to be some momentum. People on the platform apparently are enjoying it, and so we'll see where it goes from here. But another different example for you. And again, all of this stuff is it's like one-offs, testing and learning, and so that's why I thought it might be interesting to share some of this with you today. And then here's another promotion example, right? And there's all kinds of different ways to do this. Like, we're iterating on formats to figure out like what's the right way for us as a company to make it easy for a user to do this. But in this case, the load to card was right there within the feed itself. Load to card. You don't even have to leave Pinterest. So we'll see how that goes. Now, I'm going to switch gears. If you think about innovation to me is like trying to create the future while you're building the platform at the same time, and we're still very much doing both. All of that was around how do we take people from discovery to purchase more quickly. Now I'm going to show you a couple of examples around just how to create engagement on Pinterest, in some cases from the real world. And the real world could be when you're walking through a grocery store. The real world could be when you're looking at a real simple catalog. Or the real world could be you purchased a product of Baker's chocolate and you scan a Pinterest pin code and you get additional inspiration. So I'll show you what this looks like. And so we came up with pin codes, it was probably a year ago. Maybe not even that, but you'll see this is functionality that's built into Pinterest. You go and you scan this code, and what it's going to do is it's going to bring up additional inspiration for holiday decorations, which was the purpose of the print ad. So basically, the way you could look at this is you're taking a real-world print asset and creating a digital extension with more inspiration that could inspire that user to go and do some of those things in real life. Another example, Baker's chocolate. So you'll see the Pinterest logo on the front. This was a pretty interesting, and it's still in progress. This is a brand new product. But the marketing director on this business just believed that like this product like screams Pinterest, right? It's a world where you make baking easy, and Pinterest is the way that where you go and you find the inspiration to do like the one up, right? The extra step, which people oftentimes enjoy doing. So we're gonna flip the box. You will see the pin code. In the pin codes, so when we decided to do this, pin codes had never been printed on a box before, so there was a little bit of risk in this, but thankfully it appears that it's working out quite well. And you can go and you can see all these ideas. And so this is a new product that has never, is brand new. And the idea is we're going to provide additional inspiration. And then the hope is as people try this and make these things, they supply the photos and the work that they do back onto Pinterest, and potentially that inspiration could drive year 2 and year 3 of this product if they so chose to create other iterations of it. So that's pretty exciting to like literally be integrated into a product and in kind of its growth plans into the future. So hopefully that was kind of interesting, or just like new perspectives of things that are going on in the world. As I wrap up, I typically, going back to why Pinterest was founded, like I said, nothing makes Ben happier than receiving letters and news about people discovering new things and then actually doing those things in real life. So I wrap it up here with Ryan, the musician. Ryan was in the market for a coat that made him, I think it's a fall coat? Yeah, fall jacket. And he ultimately, and this is a story he told our marketing team, right? He found a coat that he felt really comfortable in and made him confident and not worrying about what other people might think about him. And if if you just think about this for a second, that's a lot of what Pinterest is about, right? It's not about a place where you go and you do things to try to look good or impress other people. It's a place where you go and you spend time to make your life more meaningful to yourself. And so this is just a quick example. I always like to end with people and stories. So with that, I think I went pretty quick. But you guys can thank me for that later. I'm open to questions, even if it could be about the stuff that I shared. It could be about this stuff. Here we go. Is there a mic right here? Here, we'll go ahead and.
Thank you. So with that pin code thing that was on the Baker's chocolate box and Real Simple magazine, I assume I know you said that's fairly new. How are you going about getting all of these, CPG companies, all these big brands, to include something like that in their packaging, in their, publications and so on? Yeah.
Just by offering up is an opportunity or something they can pursue. So it's not a paid product. It's completely free to use. In fact, a lot of our manufacturers can help us create awareness that that capability even exists. One of the things to note is that you can use that when you're in Pinterest within the app. We're also working on partnerships with Samsung to where that capability is embedded within the camera function on the phone. So you could use that capability without ever being a Pinterest user. Now, we still have to create awareness of what that capability is and how it works. And so it's still early from that standpoint, but our partners are a huge, because essentially all that is a cute Pinterest QR code. But I do think it has a lot of potential if you just think about, again, why people use the platform. And we haven't done this yet, but I could see a world where you're walking through the grocery store and there's an end cap that has a pin code on it, and there's Velveeta and Rotel. You scan the pin code and it gives you the 1-up recipe, right, for making the ultimate queso. Right, so we'll see, but it's still early.
So in the spirit of innovation, after listening to YouTube talk about, adapting to cultural trends and then hearing about visual listening, are you guys developing anything that would allow either consumers or businesses using Pinterest to quickly identify what's trending on Pinterest based on the visuals?
So yes, we spend a lot of time taking a look at what people are doing on the platform and understanding things that might have long-term trending potential versus things that might just be fads. It's difficult to do a lot of that, and so our tools are getting better. But every year, if you do a search after this for the Pinterest 100. We do a little thing each fall where we predict things that are trending then or are likely to start trending based on some of the things that we're seeing in the platform. And then we publish a big book and put out articles, and people go out on the Today Show and what have you and talk about that. So we're starting to do it. I think what we need to do more of is to create more of just an always-on ability to share that data to the degree we should share it more broadly, or just to have that data accessible to our partners so that we can help them build relevant products and improve their marketing, improve the targeting, et cetera. So that is certainly something that we're focused on doing. And I think what's particularly interesting about Pinterest is the visual angle of it. I think that is fairly distinct. Any other questions?
I had to step out for just a second in the middle, so if you already said this, let me know. But can you talk at all to how personalization in ad display does maybe work on Pinterest? For instance, the other day I searched for personalized stationery, and every sixth one, it was a design on stationery, but actually had my name on it.
Yeah. So that might have just been, I don't know if
some of them linked to eBay and Etsy.
Got it.
No, I didn't put my name in the search.
Interesting. So personalization is a big deal, right? If you think about just creating a relevant experience that people get value from on the platform, So we are very focused on it. And if you think about it, there's kind of two ways people use Pinterest. There's people who come and they just browse content through a newsfeed, very similar to how you would use Facebook. And then there's people that come in, they search. And so I think there might be different expectations for when you come and you do a search or for when you're coming to browse. One recent example, I think we announced this 2 weeks ago, in the beauty space is the ability to customize. So obviously, if you're a Caucasian woman versus an African American woman, the beauty tools and things you use might be different for your face just based on complexion. We've created a tool that enables people to come into Pinterest and kind of tell us what's most appropriate for them, so that we're providing a more personalized experience there. I think that's like a perfect example of something that is hyper personalized and really relevant, and just think about how that changes the content that we might serve on the platform. The example I always used to think about in a world where we're growing really quickly with men in the US today, it's obviously not the majority of our audience, but we're in the process of kind of growing internationally. And so in a world where there's let's say a male in Japan who's into men's fashion, the last thing he wants to look at is like a picture of me, right? Like that's not relevant at all. And so personalization is hyper important, both here in the US and in other markets as we continue to expand the service.
And my name is on my account, so.
That could be it, although that's not a targeting feature that like we enable. So I'm curious. That's interesting.
I want to do it, so I want to.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much, and have a great rest of your day.